Hi, Michelle. This is Jamie. I'm going to be reading you my assignment to Gender Matters. My earliest memory of femaleness and what it meant was watching episodes of Shirley Temple. She was an angel with her vibrant pink cheeks, bouncy curly hair, and pretty dresses. And I distinctly remember at 4 years old, my uncle telling me how I looked like Shirley Temple with my blonde curly hair. And I sometimes remember that memory and I wonder why it was so vivid. Was that the moment that my gender was impressed upon me? To be this beautiful, kind, entertaining girl. When my mother met my stepfather, that was when I really began to see stereotypical gender roles of men and women. My mother worked, cooked, cleaned, cared for me with what time she had. And my stepfather, for work, operated heavy equipment. And when he came home, he would take a nap. I'd have to call him down for dinner when it was ready, and then he'd watch television, do the stereotypical things like take out the garbage and tinker in his workshop or man cave. What I saw from my own family, I saw again on TV, like I did with Shirley Temple, the Brady Bunch, and Leave It to Beaver. There was this ideal imprinted upon me of what a family should be, a mom, a dad with children. It wasn't until a few years after high school that I began to see that gender was not only heterosexual, male or female. I began to look closely at people with their clothing and their actions and their behaviors, and I realized that my life at home in my youth, it did not represent the real world around me. My brother came out as gay. My neighbor transitioned to male, and I was asked out on a date by someone who was queer. And my straight friends, they're now making out with each other at parties. It was all very shocking to me at the time, and I remember I was judging. The social constructs of gender as binary, it worked on me. Nobody talked to me about gender, and now I realize that this is definitely a problem. Because what I had seen, I actually became. I'd enacted this role of plaything, also to be objectified by men throughout my 20s and 30s, because that's what I saw my mother do for my stepfather. Like I had seen in the romantic comedies and Jane Austen movies that my mother was obsessed with. I thought that was what my role was as a woman. When I moved to Quadra Island in my late 30s, I had the opportunity to really meet and get to know people who identified as queer. And this experience is what first allowed me to see how an intersectional perspective can really impact my understanding of gender. I was able to have conversations with these friends about their life experiences and the hurdles they had to endure to get to where they were. Many people suffered from mental health issues, suicidal ideation, because society demanded them to conform. Most of my queer friends had also experienced the pain of having to leave their families because there was really a lack of understanding and support. I really realized that allyship is so incredibly important for them. As I reflect upon the readings, as well as my discussions with my queer friends, I see a huge issue of power dynamics with white supremacy and how that can take an emotional toll on those who do not conform to gender stereotypes. I was brainwashed into believing gender was binary, and I felt I had the power, over non-binary people because what I was told was that they were not normal. I was normal. This has me consider that the lack of truth and how it can encourage harmful words, actions, violence, and murder towards non binary people. In the video, Diagnosing Difference, they talk about power in the medical industry as well. Not only do you have it in the DSM, which I will touch on in a minute, but medical professionals have the power to approve surgeries or hormone medication. Well, you gotta look like this if you want to be a lady. You have to feel like this to be a lady. It seems an unethical process when trans people have to lie by putting on makeup or wearing dresses or behave a certain way to receive hormone medication or surgery to be and feel like themselves. What society has done has made queer people lie about who they are. And then when they make that decision to look like who they are, they have to lie all over again just to feel like themselves, who weren't even initially accepted in the first place. There's also this power in having gender identity dysphoria in the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. It tells non binary folks that they have the disorder within themselves rather than telling society that it has the disorder. As a woman with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is in the DSM, I don't feel like I have a disorder. But what I do feel is that I live in a world that was not designed for me. And these are all mechanisms to maintain power over gender. As I consider this intersectional perspective and the impact it has on gender, I reflect upon the importance of supportive communities. Hunt and Holmes discuss the necessity of advocacy and allyship, and me, being a member of the dominant cishet group, that this requires accountability. And it's not predicated on reciprocity by those who are marginalized. The world that was designed here in Canada was designed by white Catholic European men. They wrote the books, they did the research, and they decided that women and Indigenous people were not of equal value to men. Whereas prior to colonization, Indigenous people valued people for who they were and what skills they had, regardless of gender. Two-Spirit people contributed the concept of what communities were. They did not have to conform to an order of the community itself. So I understand my responsibility to be an ally in community with my queer friends who don't feel that they live in a world designed for them. As I was exploring the materials this week, there were two main ideas that furthered my understanding of gender and sexual identity in society. So first, I was disgusted to know the report titled Male and Female, He Created Them. This report is used globally in Catholic educational institutions, and it states that binary assigned genders are immutable, focused on reproduction, and dangerous when expanded upon. Duluth argues this, that the basic principle is that there is no goal in evolution. As a girl, my mother expected me to have children. She was almost obsessed, like society is obsessed with babies. And white Catholic European men, they've told us that if we don't, something's wrong with us. It's unnatural. And in the context of the church, you're a sinner if you don't. The other main idea that really stood out to me and would have really supported me in my youth was the mention of in diagnosing difference, that we should be questioning gender in our youth. Gender is not binary. Many animal species vary in their gender expression. So why shouldn't we as humans? We're not superior, nor are any types of humans on this planet. Society needs to change. This assignment really has me looking back at that 4-year-old self. And I really wonder, looking back at that TV, was I conditioned to be this pretty, kind, obedient girl that Shirley Temple was? Yeah, you bet I was.